Welcome to the latest edition of Bigger Than Sports. I'm your host, Chris Williamson. I'll be joined by LeGrand shortly, but Wednesday, January 6th was a day that will live in infamy in U.S. history, where you saw thousands of Trump-inspired domestic terrorists storm the Capitol with really little to no resistance from security, from police officers, in order to intimidate Congress, who was certifying the 2020 presidential election results to make sure that Joe Biden would be the next president of the United States. And to see how the police treated these individuals with so much restraint, with so much care and compassion, it let me know, as a Black man in America, it's not about the training for police. They know how to be restrained. They know how to hold back, but it's because they identify with these white supremacists, with these terrorists who are trying to intimidate the government into believing that this was a fraudulent election. And what really stunned me was that how many people said, this is not who America is. I don't know what this is in my country. Wake up, people. Black people have been living this reality for centuries. This is who America was when it was founded. This is who America is right now. And it will always be that way until there is some type of accountability for these white domestic terrorists, for these white supremacists who continue to inflict violence upon minorities, people that do not look like them. We have to get accountability if we're ever going to get any type of unity. Earlier this week, we conducted an interview with LeGrand, former Rutgers football star, who is now a motivational speaker and who has inspired so many with how he has handled his situation. And we will show you that interview shortly, but we had to bring Eric back to discuss the events of this past Wednesday. Eric, you tweeted that you didn't even know what to say right now on Wednesday, watching what went down at the Capitol. So now that time has passed, what did you make of what you saw?
I'm still a little bit in shock, Obviously, we're going to have our differences in this country when it comes to political beliefs, whether if it's, Democratic or Republican and things of that nature. But I was in shock with the just lack of security that was on our nation, in our nation's capital. And I know, I guess they weren't expecting what had happened, obviously, but that just can't happen and, everything be okay. Like, it has to be talked about.
And it's impossible to not see the parallels from the Black Lives Matter movement, the protests, after the George Floyd death, Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and the fact and the difference with how the police treated the white Trump supporters, the white Trump domestic terrorists. So when you see the stark contrast in that, how does that make you feel, as a Black man?
Yeah, it's tough. It's so tough to see. And, you call a spade. That's exactly what it is. Because you could put the people in comparison. You could put Black people in that same situation or a Muslim religion people in the same situation, and boom, it would be a total different scenario. And you can't say that. And then you can show all the pictures you want of the burning buildings and things in the summertime with the riots. But if you switch the exact positions, though, being on the Capitol Hill, and you change the skin color, things would have been a lot different out there. And, I'm not afraid to say that because it's true.
With that being said, as we try to, I don't want to say move forward because there's still a lot to be addressed, but how do we get better as a country? Because right now we are showing some of the ugliness, that has always been in America since it was founded.
On both sides, it's going to take some humility. Both sides are angry. You have to look at reality, where we are at. Joe Biden is going to be the president of the United States on January 20th. Now it's our choice on how we live it. How do we go out? Do we go out there and we continue to be mad at each other, look at each other differently, and try to put each other down? Or do we continue, or do we try to go and now help each other and build our communities up and now have a newfound understanding on where people are coming from? People have such a hard time listening. People don't want to just listen. They always want to point finger, this person did this person did that, blah, 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 this, not. Listen on both sides.
I definitely hear what you're saying, and I think it's very well said. But I do want to genuinely ask you, do you think that's possible with people like we saw, who stormed the Capitol and committed a domestic terrorist attack?
It's going to be very hard to get to them. It ain't going to be easy, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take years upon years for relationships to be developed, but we have to set the precedent right away. You set the standard right away, and then you try to work each and every day to get to that level, and you show the compassion and understanding for American lives, Black, white, Latino, Asian. It's like I said, it's not going to be easy. Sometimes it may not be fun, but if you could try to show each and every person that you're on their side, we may have our disagreements, but that doesn't mean I have to hate you. That's what it's about, trying to come together. And it's at the place that we're in this country right now. It's sad. People are looking at us like, wow, I never thought this would happen in America. But hey, this has just been built upon years of anger. Now, what is the solution to that?
Yeah, it's going to be a long journey ahead to get to that point where everybody can come together to make this world, to make America a better place. Eric LeGrand, thank you so much for coming back to discuss this with us. And like I said before, Eric and I had a conversation earlier that began with an update on his condition, as this past October was the 10-year anniversary of his spinal cord injury.
I'm doing well. I'm keeping myself healthy. It's been a crazy 10 years, I will say. But, thank God I have the ability to still continue my therapy at home. I have the equipment here, and I have between my aides and my nurses and my mom to help me get up in my equipment and keep my body strong through this tough times, because with COVID-19, going around, it's just hard to be able to actually go to therapy, and people coming in and out of there. Sometimes you just don't know. So I'm very thankful that I can still keep my body strong at home.
Yeah, it's good to see you doing well and still rehabbing and trying to progress, to the ultimate goal of walking one day, which I believe you will achieve. You have shown so much resolve and determination to live life fully, even with your injury. Where do you draw the strength to do that as a motivational speaker, an entrepreneur, and a broadcaster?
I was always that happy-go-lucky kid. I don't like to be upset. I don't like to put people down. I don't like to be down. I always enjoy to be happy. So when I got hurt at 20 years old, I was like, God willing, I live a long life. I don't want to be miserable. I'm not good with when people start feeling bad for me and I didn't do my job. I'm not living up to, what I'm supposed to be doing, and how the outcry of support that came towards me. So many people, wishing me well, praying for me, sending me this, going out of their way just to do anything to help me. I kind of took this on as a responsibility to say, you know what? All these people are doing this for me, this and that. How can I let them down if I give up? These people looking for me, to me for motivation. How can I give up on them? And that's how I kind of just adapted to my life as an athlete, and now focused all the, the tactics and the techniques and things I've learned as an athlete and put them towards the real world life, which our coach always used to preach. When you get out into the real world, you're going to use these lessons that we learned here as a football player. So that's how I was able to adapt and be able to go out there and live life to the fullest.
I want to go back to the early part of your life, though. Now, what was your childhood like growing up in a predominantly white city in Woodbridge Township?
Well, actually, it's funny because I grew up in Woodbridge Township, and my part of town is called Avenel. And it's actually very diverse in Avenel, which I actually loved about that, because I literally got exposed to every different culture and religion and belief that there was growing up in Avenel. Because you have white people, you have Black people, you have Latino people, you have Asian people, you have Muslim religions, Buddha religions, Christian and Catholic religions. So I really got to see it all growing up. And I always try to tell people, especially in the world that we're living in today, sometimes people are sheltered to other cultures. They don't understand them. It's like foreign to them when they hear how other cultures live their life. But for me, I was always brought up around, from the time I was, 5 years old to where I am now. I got to see so many different cultures and beliefs that it's helped me to adjust and kind of, try to help other people, that may not have that same knowledge of other people's circumstances.
So you had a more balanced perspective, about all the races and different cultures than maybe most people. Given that, when was the first time you experienced racism in your life?
Well, there was a few times, I had to deal with, as you said, I went, a lot of white people I grew up with, comes to dating, white girls and their parents not even really knowing who you are, just knowing that you're a Black athlete, and they're like, no, you can't date that person, not even knowing who I am. And, you hear back, they hear me now, and they're like, oh, wow, what a great young man he was. I was that same great young man when I was 15 years old too, maybe a little bit more, maybe less mature, but I was still that great young man back then. And you know, when I got pulled over after a party one time, I was in a predominantly white town, and they told us, we better not catch you around here anymore, things like that. You hear that type of stuff, it's like, wow, this is stuff that, you know, you see on movies and on TV that you never thought that would happen to you, but when you're a part of it, it's pretty scary.
In 2020, Eric, we saw, you know, a second civil rights movement emerge after the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd at the hands of police. What did you make of the protests, both just as civilians for civilians, as well as, you know, NBA and WNBA players and MLB players? What did you make of the Black Lives Matter protest?
I believe that people's voices wanted to be heard, and I believe there's always ways to do it. At that point in time, even though through the COVID-19 battle, the only way I feel like voices were being expressed or conversations were started were through those protests. And people got to understand. And the thing I feel like with people that now live in the world that have, you know, negative things to say about it, they don't have an open mind. I'm all about it, having an open mind. As I told you, growing up, I saw all different cultures. I got to see different things. So I'm always willing to hear what's your thought process behind that. Why do you think like that? How come? Instead of right away, no, that is a bad thing, blah, blah, blah. No, I want to know even if you have something negative to say, I want to know why. I want to know where that stems from. Where does that come from? So this has opened up so many conversations now on people backing the Black Lives Movement and people hating the Black Lives Movement. And you want to know, okay, you like it? Okay, cool. You know, what are you fighting for? What do you believe in? You don't like it? Okay, why? Like, where did that come from? What makes you not want to support something like this? So that's what I believe has opened up the doors for people who are open-minded. It's hard to convince people who are closed-minded and just have one way, that's it. But at least people are having conversations about it now. And that's why I'm so thankful for it.
And speaking about conversations, the Rutgers athletic program has had a lot of conversations, you know, with their student athletes and coaches. And this summer, they came out with the motto, Chop for Change, in response to the racial and social injustices taking place. And the football team released a very powerful video with both Black and white players expressing how they felt about everything that took place. How did it make you feel to see your university take these actions?
We are more than just football players here to entertain.
I feel pain,
sorrow,
anger, hopelessness.
I think it's so cool, especially as you said, you get Black and white players. You don't always want only Black players, and you don't always only want white players. You want a mixture of both to express their feelings, express their opinions, and have an understanding. And being in a sports locker room, I'm telling you, when you get into a locker room, you got people coming from all different walks of life, all different, you know, backgrounds, and you throw them in a room, and then you come together for one goal, and it's always, you know, I always still win games, but you get to learn about each other. Get to understand each other. And that's why we always try to say sports, people need to adapt what it's like being in the locker room in the world, because you're going to deal with all sorts of people through the world, whether in your workplace, your everyday life, whatever you're doing. You're going to have people that may not look like you, may not believe in the same things as you, but being able to have that conversations, Rutgers was opened up the doors for that. They showed that coming together, we're here to chop for change. We're here to stand behind social injustice. We're here to believe that if we do all come together, we can make this world a better place.
When you look back at where you were as an 18-year-old with a singular focus, you know, on making it to the NFL, to now, you know, creating your own coffee house, how wild is it that you're in this position right now?
It's so wild. Like if I think back when I was 19, like you said, my focus was getting to the NFL one day, have a long career, retire, become a sports broadcaster. I was able to become a sports broadcaster now, but never in my wildest dreams I think I'll be opening up a coffee shop. You know, being an African American with a disability now, opening up a coffee shop. I don't know if there's any in the world, actually, honestly, African American with a spinal cord injury opening up a coffee shop. You know, I never thought that this would where the world would be taking me, but I'm so thankful for this journey I've been on, the people I've gotten to meet, the places I've gotten to go, and the things I've gotten to do. I can't take those for granted at all. This is truly something special, and I'm now so happy to bring this new endeavor alive and be able to touch the community in more ways than just my words now with a cup of coffee.
And what's the website for the coffee coffee shop for people if they're interested in, purchasing items?
That's LeGrand. It will be LeGrandCoffeehouse.com. I partnered with a local roaster, and my man is we call him the Walter White of the coffee now. This guy is he's the scientist, the madman, locked up in a room, just cooking up all these, these equations. And I'm telling you, when that taste hits you, your taste buds, you're like, what is this? What am I drinking right now? So I'm excited for people to start tasting.
Yeah, and you really inspire, so many people. It's like, as you mentioned, an African-American with a disability opening up their own, coffee shop, coffee house. That's incredible. So it's really wonderful what you're doing, and the fact that you've kept striving, to make yourself whole, even with the challenges that you face. I'll get you out on this one. What can people do right now to make tangible change to eradicate racism and police brutality?
I think having the conversations, not being afraid to work with your local police departments, have those conversations, go in there, express your feelings. The police department has to be open to also hearing and understanding, what the community feels. And the community can't go in there and just point fingers and say this, this, and that. They also have to look at the perspective of the police. And you have to try to weed out those cops that are, the racist ones that use their power overpower to authority. You got to slowly weed those out of the system and realize if we all come together and work together, we can make the world a better place. The streets is a much better place, but it's not going to be easy. And there's going to be tough days, and there's going to be times where things shouldn't have happened. But at the end of the day, if you have more people doing good, when those bad situations happen, it's going to just start weeding those people out, just like it has with the George Floyd movement. That one cop, he never needs to ever have a badge again. These police departments, they don't want to have to deal with having to, see another person die under their belt. And the cops, the good cops are out there that didn't do it. I have my best friend's a cop, and I hear his perspective on it. So I want the community to come together. Let the cops volunteer their times in these less fortunate areas in their off time and see how people are living their life. And then you come together as one community and make this world a better place.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Eric. Thank you so much for your insight and perspective. You motivate me every day just looking at your story. And I just want to say that never change who you are. We really appreciate the time that you've given us. And I can't wait to see you walking. And maybe you'll be leading, some of the protests one day. So Eric LeGrand, thank you so much and stay safe.
Chris, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, my man.